Hello and welcome to everyone. Jim's already here, and I can see other people are here as well. Hello, John, and going live with letting technology take its course, and he will shortly be with us. It says connecting, and he's there. Hey, Jim, how you doing?
I'm good. How you doing, Tom?
I'm all right, man. You're kind of throwing me by not wearing. Every time I've seen you, you're wearing a cap, and now it's like you've got hair.
Yeah, cleaning myself up.
Yeah, man, and you kind of really well put it together. Really well put it together. I just want to first of all say thank you for being here, and to those of you who don't know and are just joining because they want to see you, just a little bit about Given to Live. We are an organization that uses live music to honor and celebrate the lives of people who've gone or are going through some tricky stuff, and I'm sure more of that will come along in the journey of this conversation. One thing I do want to say right at the very beginning is I'm drinking out of a Slipknot cup today because a young fellow that we took to a show 4 and a bit years ago sadly took his own life a couple of weeks ago, and in part of I just wanted to honor Declan and his family here. So of course you're here, and thank you so much. And also you're not in that wonderfully chaotically organized chaos of a studio. I loved watching when the other day when you were kind of your list of who's got to go out. It's exactly the same as me. I'm like, oh, okay, this is the kind of, it's almost like it gave me a little bit of permission to be chaotic.
That was actually my garage. My garage is like a temporary little workspace, but I'm sitting in, I have a little cubby in my hallway where my computer and everything is set up, but it's actually pretty interesting. I'll show you real quick. This is what I'm looking at.
Okay, that's
kind of like my little art space.
That's very well put and organized and put
together.
Yeah,
much better than the garage.
Well, I like the garage, and I loved the way you had the whole everyone who needs stuff is written down here, here, and here. I'm good. I use and this kind of lets the cat out of the bag that I eat too much chocolate. But like if I get decent chocolate, it comes in cardboard wrapping, and I always all my notes go on the back of the cardboard wrapping of the chocolate. So it was like. Yeah. It was I've got to say, it was a comfort to see I'm not alone in kind of doing it in that way.
I find it easier where when I have a bunch of orders like that, instead of just using my shipping system, I'll just write everything down. Usually I do it on pieces of, just regular printer paper, and I'll make lists. And then I can check it off and I can see who's order more than one thing, because sometimes I'll pack something and I won't realize they ordered more than one thing until I get, a little bit higher up in the system or whatever. So that's why I do that.
And then able to ship it all together rather than them going out in 3 different job lots.
Most of the time.
Yeah. Nothing's perfect. Nothing's perfect in this world. Although I am sure there are people who have looked at your art and think, some of it is perfect. Yeah. And before going on to how much I enjoy, and I know others enjoy your art, when we were chatting the other day, the way you got to doing it and the journey was actually, listening to you was actually very inspiring. Would you care to share a little bit about how you had where you were with the with the internet stuff and ended up kind of going down to the route you're at? Because actually, like I said, I found that really inspiring, and there's that real strong sense of this is a human being, in this case you, who's got a dream and actually has followed it and taken a lot of risks to get there.
Yeah. Well, I can go, even a little further back. I mean, in high school, I went to school I went to a vocational school for welding and metal fabrication. So that was really what I thought was going to be my career path. And I did that for about 5 years after I graduated from high school. and I was really miserable. Didn't like it. You know, I kept thinking, you know, how am I going to do this for another, whatever, 50 years or whatever it would be, you know? So I really was like struggling, and I think my mom noticed that I was really having a hard time. And thankfully, I was already in my early 20s at this point. So thankfully, my mother helped me go back to school. So I went to school in Boston for about a year at this commercial art school. And, you know, I did really well. And it was the first time that I had really drawn every day of the week. I mean, this school, the way this school was set up, it was like work. You go in from 8 to 3 every, like Monday through Friday, and you just sit at the same drawing table. And then teachers would come in the classroom and teach a class, but you'd be sitting in the same spot and drawing all day. And it was the first time I'd ever drawn every day of the week, you know, like I didn't really draw that much when I was just growing up or whatever. So I could see, you know, the progression starting just from doing that every day. So then I started thinking, you know, what did I really want to do? And I still wanted to draw comics, but something happened where I applied for this internship at this animation studio in Boston, and I didn't get it. And I got kind of like, I got a little upset that I didn't get it, and I was kind of frustrated, and I was like, hey, you know, I really want to do animation now that I didn't get this job. It was like I kind of switched gears, and I wanted to get into animation. So I ended up finding the Art Institute of Seattle was offering animation, and the cost of living there was cheaper than other places I had looked. So at the time, now it's not. So I ended up moving to Seattle, and I went and just took the two-year degree there. And then once I graduated, I got a job right away working for this internet animation company. And, you know, it was a struggle for me because when I was in school, I basically just focused on traditional animation, which, you know, is just basically drawing line art with a pencil and making everything move and animate and whatever. But I didn't focus on color theory or graphic design. You know, I had all those classes, but I would take the class and then that'd be it. And I didn't really apply it to anything else like that I was doing. You know, I was just mainly laser focused on the traditional animation aspect. And this is right before Flash really started becoming a thing that schools were teaching and stuff like that. Flash is like the program that everybody uses for animation nowadays, or one of the main programs. So when I graduated and I got that job, it was animation, but there was way more design and, you know, the website design type stuff, you know, not as much animation. So I struggled. And, you know, after about a year, I was really starting to feel more comfortable, but I wasn't really happy with what I was doing. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But, you know, there was some friction between me and the creative director, who was one of the owners and stuff. And I just decided I would leave there and find another job. So, of course, once I quit, the whole .com crash happened, and then nobody was hiring. And, you know, I didn't really know where else to find a job. So the only real experience I had other than welding was working at the school cafeteria. So I ended up getting a job, you know, making pizza at the Seattle Sheraton. It was part of the hotel, but there was like a pizza place attached. So, you know, I went from making a decent living to making $8 an hour overnight, basically. And, you know, it was a struggle because you can't live on $8 an hour, you know. It was tough. So I worked there, and then I eventually moved into the hotel to do room service and stuff like that, which the money was a little better. But, you know, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So basically, it was kind of a blessing in disguise, though, because on my way to work, home to and from work, there was a concert memorabilia place that I would see these concert posters hanging in the wall, screen printed stuff like, you know, that we're doing now. And Justin Hampton had one hanging in the window for his Queens of the Stone Age print with Mr. Spock on it. And every night I would see it in the window as I was stopped at this stoplight waiting to turn. And I was just like, man, that looks really cool. So one day I was just, actually it was, my friends came into town to see Pearl Jam at Key Arena. and they were staying in a hotel that was right near this place. So we were walking to the show that one day, and we popped in there to look around, and I saw Justin stuff, Jermaine Rogers, Emick, Ames Brothers. Those were the I think the four that really stuck out, and they stuck out to me because they I think Jermaine and Justin and Emick had started P&E at that point already, so they were doing the Queens of the Stone Age stuff. I think they might have been doing Audio Slave at that point. I'm not sure if they had started out yet, but anyway, so yeah, that was pretty much the start of it. So I just talked to the people that work there, and I asked them how these guys got into this type of work, and they directed me to a website called gigposters.com, and that was basically the start of everything, because that place, there was tons of artists, band managers, screen printers, all on this website, all this information basically at your fingertips. Everybody really super helpful and willing to give advice. So yeah, that was the start of it. But then it was probably another 2 years before I even did my first flyer or whatever, because I didn't know anybody in a band. So once I moved to LA, I started working at another hotel, and there was a couple guys there that both were in bands. So I immediately hit them up to do some flyers for the shows, and then I started uploading those on gigposters.com, and people would comment. And that kind of is weird to say that, but as soon as you start getting that encouragement from people, like someone likes your stuff, even if it's one or two people, it really motivated me, because my stuff wasn't very good back then, So it motivated me to keep going. I was like, well, this 2 people liked it, and they commented on it, so that must mean I'm doing something right, So then I would do some more, and then I did one where, it got like 20 comments, and to me back then, like 20 comments could have been 1,000 comments, really, I was like, holy cow, 20 people commented on this, and people were messaging me asking me if it was screen printed, or if I had some for sale, and this was for just a band that nobody had ever heard of. So I started looking in screen printing, and I decided eventually that that's what I had to do, was screen print my posters. And so that's basically how it started.
Yeah. And I remember chatting the other day, and it was kind of like you had this dream, this desire to do a gig poster, and you wanted to upload something, but
yes.
But there was this kind of thing of like, I don't know anyone in a band. I've got to find a band to do something for.
Yeah.
I can't. Yeah, which is just.
Yeah.
And then you ran into someone, and it could have been someone huge. It could have been who it was, but it gave you that avenue to be able to go, I have something that's legitimately allowed on this website.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's funny, because I could have just done my own thing and said it was legit, because there's nobody really checking to make sure, but I really wanted to feel like I was doing it the right way, I guess,
and do it with integrity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because you could pretend that you were doing a Pearl Jam one, or this or that. No, that's really, besides anything else, it's like really honorable to be actually, for you to be actually, no, I'm going to do this the right way. I'm not going to try and go around the back door and pretend,
Yeah.
Who was that first band?
Well, the first band I did a couple flyers for was this band out here called Weed Eater. They're not around anymore. And there's another band called Weed Eater, but it's not the same one. There's a more popular band named Weed Eater, but it's not that one. And then Evacuation Plan was another one. They both worked with me. Both the guys in those bands worked with me. But the Evacuation Plan, I did a few for them. I don't remember exactly how many, maybe 4. But one of theirs was the one that kind of got people, more interested in my stuff, I guess, to the small degree. But yeah, that was the one that kind of really got me excited about, the fact that people liked it, or I guess.
And roughly when was that?
That was, I think, 2004, I think.
So that's like 16,
oh, yeah.
16 years ago.
ago.
I'm showing off my math skills here. And so,
but
yeah, go on.
what's that?
No, carry on.
Yeah, so after that, you know, I think, you know, I did a bunch of flyers and stuff, and it probably took, I don't know, I don't remember exactly how long it took me before I actually was able to start screen printing, but it was probably a year or so, maybe a little bit longer, because I didn't have anywhere to do it. I was trying to find kind of like a communal space, which there isn't really any around this area. So what I did was I got a gig from someone I met on gigposters.com, and they wanted 75 screen printed posters. So there's a guy in Chicago named Steve Walters who he's taught a lot of the Chicago guys how to screen print back in the earlier days. And he offered a class, like a one-day class to learn how to screen print. So I flew to Chicago with this poster design that I had done. I spent like a couple days there, but then I spent one of the days and printed the posters with him, and then came home. And that was my first hands-on experience with screen printing. So when I got back, I had my first screen print, and I basically kind of tried to mimic his setup. Once I got a new room that I was renting from this guy, and basically he had a 2-bedroom condo, and the room he was renting out was the master bedroom. So basically, once I walked through my bedroom door, I could shut my bedroom door, and I would have my room, a pretty good sized room, a walk-in closet, and a bathroom. And so basically, I set up a whole print studio in my bedroom. You know, I had my drawing table with my hinge clamps, and I put my exposure unit in the closet so it would be nice and dark. And then I hooked the hose up to the shower with a little little thing that would, you know, I could either turn the shower on and have a shower, or I could pull a lever and it would go through the hose and I could wash out my screens. So basically, so once I did one poster. Actually, I printed one poster in my in-laws' laundry room, and it was kind of a disaster. Like it was super difficult, and I was like, this isn't going to work. So then I finally figured out and got everything kind of fine-tuned so that I could start doing it in this room. And I had 2 posters that I had done. I did a clutch poster, actually. The same guy who gave me that first one that I flew to Chicago for got me a gig for Clutch and High on Fire. It was like a dual show or whatever. So my first poster that I had done by myself, and I did like a 6-color screen print. You know, it's like I made it as difficult as possible, and I did like no trapping on it or anything. So this is the one that I printed in the laundry room, and it was really tough, man. I had my screen was really high off the paper, which is not good. So my arms were killing me. I was going to work. I was like coughing Advil all the time, and so I finally finished it, and then I really fine-tuned the setup, and I used those 2 posters to go to the Knitting Factory in Hollywood, which is kind of like a legendary club that's here. It's closed down now, but they did posters for a lot of their shows. So I hit them up and I said, hey, I've done a few posters. If you guys need anything, I'd love to do some posters for you guys. I'm local. I can screen print. And they got back to me, and we established a relationship, and I basically did about a year's worth of posters for them just in that bedroom, printing like about probably 50 copies for them, and I kept a few for myself. But yeah, that was like the beginning of it, and basically made no money. I didn't get paid anything for any of those posters. I was just screen printing and designing posters.
That was generous of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That was like one of I always tell people that are asking me when they're starting out to make sure they're getting paid for, even if it's just a little bit, you know, because that was a kind of a bad mistake. I kind of, for a while, it really took me a while to get out of that space where like people were just looking for free, you know, pro bono stuff where, you know, I could just sell copies, which isn't really, you know, at that stage, it's not a good offer. It's not a good offer because a lot of times, you know, the bands don't really sell that well anyways, but that's still a deal that you get sometimes, but you know, a lot of times it pays off if it's a big band, I guess.
Yeah. And I mean, it's just, You know, I mean, I enjoyed our, you know, chat the other day, and it was really a lot of fun chatting with you. And then these I mean, just something so special, and also just shows how much you dearly loved and wanted to do what you're doing. You know, it's like you got your screen print room in your bedroom. You know, no one does that kind of thing. You know what I mean? You know, you have a separate room. Your bedroom's where you sleep. You know, and I'm just kind of also in my head, I'm thinking, geez, some days I bet it must have been really interesting to sleep at night. You know, with all the fumes and
yeah, it wasn't that bad actually. I mean, I was using house paint, which most of it didn't smell that bad. But it was a pretty good sized room. So I had like I had a blow up mattress on the floor. I had my TV, and then I had like and then I had an L shape desk with my computer and stuff. It was really a pretty good sized room, and I still had room for, you know, to walk around a little bit, I guess. So it worked out perfect. As soon as the guy showed me the room, my thought was, I'm going to be able to print in this room. He's thinking he's renting out a bedroom. I'm thinking it's like a bedroom / print studio, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't think the whole time I was living there, which was probably a few years, he even knew exactly what was going on.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I would time everything to when he was at work, or like I wouldn't be washing out screens while he was home or anything like that. So I knew his work schedule. So basically, as soon as he would leave for work, I'd wash my screens out and then do anything that was super noisy while he was at work.
And that is just so great. It's so great. I mean, I just having this vision of someone walking into a bedroom, like not even thinking about, can I sleep here? It's like, can I print here? You know.
It was kind of funny too, because he'd always comment on how my door was always shut, and like, you should keep your door open. It's no problem, or whatever, like that, something like that. But I was like, I don't want to leave my door open.
I like my privacy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm not telling you why. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you got that, and you said you've done these shows where you didn't get paid and this, that. When, I mean, did it start sort of rolling that, okay, I'm getting paid now, and you know?
Unfortunately,
I'm working on the theory that you're getting paid these days, you know. I know you are. But when was it a specific band that kind of like, right, here's the sort of not takeoff point, because there's always an evolution rather than a, you know, band?
Well, let's see. There was after the Knitting Factory, I started doing poster. I kind of decided I didn't want to print anymore at one point. I was like, this is too much. It's like taking over my life with all the paper and ink everywhere, and it was just getting to be too much, and I wasn't making any money. So I was like, I got hooked up with a couple of guys who were publishing posters, which basically means that either you get the gig or they have a gig, and then you'll design the poster and they'll pay to have it screen printed, and then we'll all split posters that we'll be able to sell to make some money, basically. So it was like a three-way split. So I'm still not getting paid. I was getting better gigs though, because they had a Live Nation connection. But now it's promoter prints. So I started doing, like, I did my first Chris Cornell poster that way. I did a bunch of gigs that were pretty high profile stuff, but promoter prints. And still wasn't making much money, but the posters were selling pretty good. Not pretty good. They were selling okay. You know, I'd make probably maybe a few $100 if I put a poster up for sale, because there's 2 other people selling them as well, you know. So I did that for, I don't know, maybe a year, or it might have been a little bit longer than that. It was probably a little longer than a year, because we switched at one point where I decided I wanted to start printing again, so that way they could pay me for the printing as well as I'd have copies to sell instead of paying someone else to do it. You know what I mean? So there's a few different, like, I can't tell you how many different screen printing setups I've had, but one of them was, I was going back. My mom was sick at this time. She had cancer, so I was going back east to visit my mom. So my friend, one of my good friends, set up a screen printing studio in his spare bedroom. So we started printing stuff in there, and I was getting the gigs, or sometimes they'd give me gigs. And then finally, I used that kind of buildup of posters, like the Live Nation stuff, and I hit up Golden Voice, which is an LA-based promoter. You've probably heard of AEG Live or whatever.
Yeah.
They're like a kind of a subset of AEG. So there's another promoter, but I would see other artists like Tara McPherson did some Golden Voice stuff. This guy, Michael Motorcycle, he was doing stuff for them. So I sent just I just went on their website and hit the contact thing and sent in a note saying, hey, I'd love to do some posters for you guys, blah, blah, blah. So they got back to me pretty quickly. It's a very low fee for the posters, what they were paying. But at the time I was like, it was a lot of pretty good shows. So I decided to start doing stuff for them too. But then now it's the same deal. I'm getting paid for the printing. I'm making a little bit of money from Golden Voice and then selling some posters. But nothing at this point in my career, nothing was really selling. I wasn't selling out of stuff. And I'm only having like 10 to 20 copies, and nothing's really selling out. Like I'll sell a few here and there. So I'm still working, mostly full time at this hotel while I'm doing all this. But Golden Voice really, all right, I'm skipping ahead a little bit. So while I'm doing this, I finally decide it's getting to be too much, and I was getting tired of it. And I decided I was just going to stop doing posters. So I got this job at an animation studio, and it wasn't as an artist. It was as a production assistant. And it was kind of another blessing in disguise because they needed me to start right away. So I had to burn my hotel bridge because I left without giving them notice, type of thing. So I had nothing to fall back on if this animation thing didn't really work out. But so when I started that, I was, it was going all right, pretty well. I had to learn everything basically from scratch because I'd never been a production assistant or whatever, production coordinator. And I'm realizing pretty early on that it wasn't really something that I was going to be thrilled to be doing for a long period of time, And while I'm doing this,
no, I'm just chuckling because the other day I think you were slightly
less PC about it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you were kind of a bit clearer because there was just.
I was miserable. Let's put it this way. I wasn't miserable at the beginning, but I got miserable towards the end because the stress was too much for me.
And you mentioned there was like people always looking over your shoulder.
Yeah, I mean that's the way that business is. There's always people above you that are looking. Everybody has their input in that industry. That's just the way it is. And then some people thrive in it and some people don't. And I'm one of the people that don't, basically. But anyways, while I was doing this place, I basically had stopped taking poster jobs. And this is only like a 6-month period that I was there. So it wasn't really that long. But while I'm there, Golden Voice kept emailing me and asking me, oh, do you want to take this job? And at this point, I had established a pretty good relationship. And I had also gotten a raise in my fee, which still wasn't great, but it was better than what I was getting. So when I really was at my wit's end and I couldn't do it anymore, I asked them to see if they could guarantee me so many shows per month so that I could pay my bills. I had not many bills at the time. I had pretty much simplified my life to where I had like basically just rent and food and stuff. And that was about it. So they actually agreed after like a week. They had a meeting and stuff and like talked about it. And they guaranteed me like 6 shows a month, which would give me just enough to pay my bills and have money for food. So I quit that job. I gave them 2 weeks and then left. And then basically that was almost 9 years ago in November. And I never looked back. I basically just started cranking out, I think that first year I left the animation studio. I think I did like 60 posters, designed and screen printed about 60 posters in my second bedroom. Now I have an apartment with 2 bedrooms. So my wife and I were sleeping in 1 bedroom. I had my studio set up in the other bedroom, and the spare bathroom was like my washout booth. So that was where I did all of most of the Golden Boy stuff, and that was when I started getting Eric Church was one of the first people that I got, like, actually through their management. Started doing I did a couple merch posters for him, and then I also got involved with a VIP company that was really big for my career early on at that stage. Not early on, but like midway. But that was one of the things that helped me kind of get off the promoter poster. The VIP gig was like, it was official, so it was always approved by the artist or by the band, and you would have copies to sell most of the time. And they were usually doing big runs, so I was having, to print like, 300, 400, 500 posters, and then eventually it was in the thousands. Literally, like Kenny Chesney, one country artist, I think they ordered like 8,000 posters, one order, screen printed. So yeah, there was huge orders like that. And as I was working on that stuff, I started building up my relationship with band managements and merch companies and stuff like that. And then eventually, I would still do the occasional Golden Voice poster. Most of the time, I would try and take a gig for bands that didn't already use gig posters, just because I was trying to stay away from kind of upsetting anybody that, a lot of times bands that have posters as merch, they don't want to see the VIP prints or, promoter prints, I guess you should say. But, so that was kind of the evolution. But once I quit my job and focused everything on it, it really just started building from there. Like every year you can kind of see it getting, easier and easier to make a living, I guess you'd say,
Yeah, and I again go back to kind of what I said, very close to the beginning, is like, having listened to you the other day, and then now you further expanded on it. It's like, not everyone in any walk of life follows whatever dream it might be, and it's like listening the other day, and then more of the intricacies, the nuts and bolts here. It's like every step of the way, it was like, I'm gonna take a jump. I'm gonna quit that job, or I'm gonna do this, and somehow, and it, and it's like I have, my own spiritual beliefs and what have you. It's almost like each time you took that leap, you were picked up and taken further forward, rather than so many of us will stay and go, I need that job because I've got to pay the bill. I can't possibly be a poet, an artist, whatever it is. It might not be anything in the arts. It might be, I want to be an electrician, and I'm 45. How the hell can I do that? But it seems like every time you've taken that chance, something's held you, carried you forward. And that's actually really, as I said, inspiring. And I think it's a really good lesson for anyone to hear, that we can actually take a risk, and doesn't mean we're going to fall flat on our face.
No, I mean, everything. I mean, I know it's a very cliche saying, but it's worth the risk if it's worth having, basically, And also, it was one of those things where I kind of, I had that kind of security blanket with Golden Voice giving me the jobs that I needed to make that jump. Not to say that if I had decided to just go full-time freelance a couple years earlier, I wouldn't have fallen flat on my face. But, it was kind of an educated guess as well. But it was, it wasn't easy. There was a couple of times where I really was like, oh, no. Especially, around the holidays and stuff, like trying to get people to pay invoices and all this kind of stuff. That was a big thing. Because Golden Voice is a huge company. So every time I would invoice them, I'd be waiting a month to get paid whatever. It wasn't a lot of money. So I'm like, I need this money faster than you guys are processing it, because, you're getting the posters, and then I'm waiting a month or however long it takes. And that's with me kind of harassing you to pay me, So finally it worked out to something happened where their system they were changing over systems for the accounting. and they got approval to just write me checks as soon as I dropped off the poster. And that was like a game changer because, you know, at least I knew I would have that money as soon as I gave them the posters, you know. But I don't know how well it would have went if I had to keep going down the waiting for my invoices to be paid route, because it was really, it got kind of dicey.
Yeah, and I can imagine. Yeah, if you got to wait and you got to wait, you know, it's not easy in any walk of life, whatever the work you're doing is. And I'm just kind of slightly going off a tangent here, and I just wanted to say, because, and I did message you, but I had a lot of messages about that Dropkick Murphys that we used in our collage, you know. And I've got, you know, one guy I know, he's followed Given to Life for years, and he's really into his posters, and he's like, where'd you get that? Where is it? I've never seen it. I've never seen it. And amongst quite a few who are going, oh my God, that is amazing. You know, so is there a little story to that? Or, because he was like, I've never seen this. I've never seen this anywhere on his way, on this, on that, on the other. Yeah.
That's another Golden Boys print. And so there's probably not even 100 of them in existence. You know, I think I printed, you know, I always print 50 for them. And then I think I probably had 20 or so. I'm not sure if I even have one, to be honest. I have kind of stacks of Golden Boys prints sitting in my flat file. I'd have to go through them, and it was kind of a smaller size too. I think it was, I don't remember. It was a square poster, which was different than the normal stuff that I was doing. But there's not too much. Yeah, that's pretty much the story behind that one.
I mean, I personally love it. You know,
yeah,
but that, I mean, it's like almost no point in me telling you that I love it. It's kind of because we're interviewing, and it could be sort of so easy for me to say I love every single poster you've ever done, and sort of, as you guys say, blow smoke up your ass, you know. But when I've you know, gotten these comments, you know, privately, it's like, where the hell did that come from? It's kind of, and as I said, when I sent you the message, you know, it's like I was, you know, there's, whether you come across the book, little, you know, the education little tree, there is the beginning is, if you, I can't remember the words, is if you hear something nice, pass it along, you know. And I just thought, I wanted to tell you that, and especially because it wasn't like, oh yeah, that poster, you know, like the Abbott Brothers one he did, that you then did as an art print.
Oh yeah,
it's very easy. It's very easy to say, yeah, loads of people love that, because we both know that, because you've seen how many have sold, etc. But that was kind of quite special to see something more, you know, hidden get that reaction, you know. And
yeah, it's kind of funny. It's funny about, as more people get turned on to my stuff that I've been doing now, and then they'll go back and see all this older stuff that I've done. And it's kind of a weird feeling for me, because people are like, oh, I love this old, you know, this old stuff and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just kind of like, you know, when I look at it, I cringe a little bit, because obviously I feel like my stuff's progressed a lot since then, you know. So it's a weird feeling to have people go, you know, a little crazy over old stuff that, you know, I think doesn't look that great, but it's still good. It still feels good, I guess.
You know, and I just mentioned Abbott Brothers, and I mean, you mentioned Eric Church. I mean, those are two bands that you've done quite a lot of work for.
Yeah, Eric Church, I mean, he's probably my longest running client as far as, you know, working directly with their management, or now I work with, he has a guy who handles his merch, and, you know, we've been working together for quite a long time, for a short, not a short time, but I think maybe a couple years. All his stuff was VIP posters. So if you went to his show, they would have like a meet and greet, and they would give everyone that got the VIP experience a poster. So I was doing posters. I did quite a few posters for him like that. And he wasn't doing merch posters for that time for whatever reason. It was a weird thing, because when they hired me first, I did 2 merch posters, and then for whatever reason, they stopped doing the merch posters, and it switched over to the VIP experience. And then once the VIP experience stopped, they went back and really started pushing the merch posters again.
Right.
So I stopped work. I didn't do the VIP poster stuff anymore. And then it's really built up though. He's got a pretty big poster fan base, and it's nice. I mean,
it seems like it, and I remember the one that I kind of, because when I do the collages, it's kind of, yeah, the most honest word is selfish. It's like I choose ones that, I mean, yeah, yes, I know there's a band with a name that might draw people in, and also what I like, but there was the one Eric Church poster I pulled up. It was just because it was just fantastic.
Oh, thanks.
No, absolutely. And it was just kind of, and it's almost like you can kind of, in a lot of your work, you can tell it's yours, because sometimes there's almost like a theme, and then other times it's like, I remember the one Ben Harper of the Eiffel Tower. It's almost kind of, it's almost kind of like, hang on a minute, how can that possibly be the same guy who does these? Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm hoping you're not taking that as me being rude or.
No, not at all.
No.
I think for me,
I mean, and I love that one. It's so simple, but works so well.
Yeah, that was a fun one to work on. I don't know. I feel like there's like certain genres that I work in, like country, and then you got the Abbott Brothers, which kind of fall in between country and rock, and then you got like Primus and like a little more psychedelic type stuff. And I kind of, I feel like if you look at posters from each of those bands, they're different, but I try to keep it, you can tell it's me, but it's not the same. I'm not going to do the same thing for Eric Church that I would do for Primus, that type of thing. Or same thing for the Abbott Brothers. Like, they kind of got their own vibe going as well. So I think it's kind of a balancing act, like wanting people to recognize it's my stuff, but not, take away from the band, the band's vibe, or, disregard anything that has to do with, the band at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, for me and my sort of poster buying thing, I have this sort of golden rule, and some people think it's neurotic, some people totally get it, is I will only ever buy a poster from a show I've been at. It doesn't matter how amazing I think that, poster X is. If I wasn't there, I have this weird internal rule, I can't buy it. If that makes sense, So that means I miss out on a lot, but at the same time, it saves me a hell of a lot of money on framing. But another one of yours that I absolutely, God, I wish I'd kind of been at the show type thing, was the string cheese incident with I guess it's what are those things? What are those animals called that live under the sea?
Jellyfish one?
Thank you.
Jellyfish?
Thank you. Yeah. People are looking, going, who the hell's this guy who doesn't even know what a jellyfish is? Yeah, that's the word. That's just like, I mean, that is killer, man. I mean, that is.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, there's something about it that's so vivid and dark all at once.
That was another Golden Voice print, I think. I've done a few string cheese incidents. That one was a Golden Voice, and then I think the other two that I did after that were VIP posters. So that same VIP company that I was doing all the Eric Church stuff for, I would do. I did a couple string cheese incident, and but I've never actually worked for like a merch print for them.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Would you like to?
Sure. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Why not? Why not? Why not? Why not? And I'm pretty sure I threw up, God, I don't even know the name of the band, because there were cigarettes in them, which was totally because I smoked. Oh,
I think you're talking about Mark DeMarco, maybe?
I've got it down here somewhere. I can't see it for the second.
Mac DeMarco, I think it's
Mac DeMarco, yeah. And I'm like, as a smoker, I'm thought like I'm going to sort of cheekily give myself a self-reference, But that was kind of even... And I understand people being very anti-smoking if they are, and this, that, and the other, but it kind of still made a lot of sense as a poster. Yeah.
Yeah. What's funny is I don't smoke, but I put a lot of characters smoking for some reason. I don't know why. I think maybe, I don't know. there's something that looks cool about someone smoking, even though I don't really, I don't really advise to smoke. You know, it's a weird thing. Well, I also do a lot of pot references, and I don't smoke pot either, so I don't know.
But you say that thing about smoking being cool. I mean, I'm 52, and it's like now you can't, nowhere can advertise cigarettes, but the whole cigarette advertising business, when I was young, it is cool, to smoke. It was, you're a cat, you're smoking Marlboro, you're immediately a cowboy, whether you were born in the States where there are cowboys or on a council estate in England, you're a cowboy. You can smoke, so there was a whole thing about it being cool, and I'm gonna go completely off in a total tangent, and I think I'm quite unique because both my parents advertised cigarettes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's how Mum was a model, and she started smoking because she was doing an advertisement for a particular brand and never stopped smoking. And Dad was out in Australia, and they asked him to do one. And I'm thinking, if there's nothing else, I've got to be pretty damn unique for having both parents advertising smoking. And both of them, it was all about being, it was all about being chic and cool, and Dad was male and cool, smoking, like you say,
I mean, my dad was smoked too as well, and he was kind of had that cool vibe, I guess, growing up. But it's funny because my dad was a smoker. He drank and all that kind of stuff, and was into fast cars and that type of thing. And my mom was like the complete opposite, didn't drink hardly at all, didn't smoke. So I'm kind of like in the middle, I had my party years earlier on and, college and stuff. But nowadays I'm pretty, I barely drink, don't smoke, don't do anything else. That's,
Well, you're a smart man for it. I mean, because I think I mentioned, one of the reasons I started Given to Live was having a lot of alcohol, drug issues, ending up homeless, and 15-ish years ago quit and wanted to give something back, so and I'm never going to say don't get into drugs, don't do this, don't do that. I mean, that doesn't work, for whatever reason, but it's kind of, smart man not smoking and drinking moderately. It's somehow we've almost, because I know that you get an hour with what's this thing called, Instagram. Somehow we've used up the best part of 50 minutes already, and it's like we haven't even started.
I know,
from a lot of people who know about Given to Live know there's a big Pearl Jam influence on that, and you did a poster for Eddie last year. What was that like? That's just from a selfish point of view. And
it was awesome for me. I mean, I'm a big fan of Eddie Vedder and Pearl Jam. All those bands that came out of that Seattle music scene, I was a fan for years. So it was kind of like a dream gig for me, definitely. Aside from, say, Soundgarden, I would say would probably be the next biggest gig for me. I mean, when I got to do Soundgarden posters, that was like, probably my biggest fish to catch, I guess you would say, when it happened.
I'm just getting this deep intuition that maybe Soundgarden in the early 90s maybe was the best gig you ever went to.
Yes.
Or did you tell me that?
I think I told you that. Yeah.
They get away with it being intuition. Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely put on the best show I think I've ever seen back in, I think it was 95 maybe. The Super Unknown tour. It was amazing. Just a crazy, amazing show. I'd never seen a show with that much energy and, man, I don't know. I wish every concert I went to could be like that.
And I remember you saying it was like 100 degrees. I don't know what that is in English. I don't know what that's in English, but I know it's warm.
It was hot, yeah.
Yeah. And
it was a summer day, and we went, me and my friend went there, and it was so hot that they actually had, it was at a hockey rink. So basically the stage was set up at one end of the hockey rink, and everybody would stand basically on the floor of the hockey arena, whatever. And it was so hot that they had all the doors open, all the security exits and stuff were open. Like anybody could just walk in and out. And the water was sold out before the first band even came on because everybody was so, you know, overheated. It was like a layer of condensation on the floor from everybody sweating. It was just crazy. And then, you know, Soundgarden comes out and just tears the roof off the place. I mean, it was really insane. It was insane. People crowd surfing and jumping off the stage, and it was the first time I'd ever seen anything like that, and it really blew my mind.
And I, you know, as you know, I've done a few of these chats now, which I personally, amongst other things, you know, find a privilege, because obviously given to live, we take people to shows. There's no shows to take people to, so we're doing these chats and it's fun. But then when I hear an artist, in this case you, saying you love band X, Soundgarden, and then ending up doing posters for them, I mean, that's kind of almost kind of dream come true stuff. And it's those are things that me as a human being loves to hear happen for people.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because when I had first started art school in Boston, I would be doing stuff on my, you know, my spare time. And I remember when they came out with Down on the Upside, I was drawing like some picture that I was inspired by that album. I forget exactly what it was, but and we were supposed to go to Lollapalooza and they were playing, and I was like, man, I wonder if there's some way I could get them this art and like maybe do some art for them type of thing. You know, that was what was going through my head at the time. I had no idea about gig posters at this point, you know. I didn't even know if they were a thing or whatnot. Like I wasn't aware of the whole 60s and 70s poster explosion, all that psychedelic art. Like that wasn't on my radar at all. All I knew is would love to do art for a band, you know. So it was kind of weird that like cut to whatever 15 years later and now I'm doing posters for them. It was a weird thing to kind of have that thought back then, but not really know how it would manifest itself, you know. But yeah, it was really, really awesome the first time I got to do that Soundgarden print, and then I ended up doing a couple for them, and then maybe I think 4 for Chris Cornell. A couple of them were promoter prints, and then another 2 I think that were his merch prints for him.
Was it Soundgarden or Cornell, the one with the guitar?
That was Chris Cornell. That was for his when he was doing his solo acoustic stuff.
That's a great piece. I mean, that really
you know,
great piece.
I think for the Chris Cornell stuff, a lot, like out of the 4 that I have done for him, that was my favorite, and I think for me it connected with him. For some reason, I never felt like the other posters that I did for him really captured the essence of him or his music for whatever reason. But that one for me was the best.
Am I remembering right from our chat the other day that one of the reasons with the Cornell Soundgarden is you felt so under pressure because you were, for want of a better word, a fan, to get it exactly right?
Yeah. You know, that was, I say that's the reason. That's what I think is the reason. But I get that way with other bands too, and sometimes I do stuff that I think is some of my best work, you know. So I don't know what it was specifically about him. I feel like a lot, maybe it was harder for me to connect with his solo stuff for whatever reason than it was for Soundgarden, because I was always a huge Soundgarden fan, and I do love his solo stuff too, but not as much as Soundgarden is, you know, in my opinion, was always like the top tier or whatever.
I think I mentioned this when we chatted the other day, and I know that it's almost sacrilegious to say, but Chris Cornell's version of Thank You, he outplants Plant, in my opinion. in my opinion, it's just amazing. It is just amazing. And yeah, we got about 4 minutes ish, but right now, I know you got some stuff for Big Old Nasty, and I know we're chatting with John Hines tomorrow night, which I'm really looking forward to, which is, I'm really excited about that as well, especially if he wears his killer cap that he was when we chatted the other day. But if there was, you know, if I had a magic wand, which I don't, one band that you would just love to do a poster for that you haven't yet.
Yeah, I mean, Pearl Jam is at the top of the list. Them or Tyler Childers is probably my two top bands that I'd want to do a poster for. I think pretty much, I mean, there's not too many bands out there that I wanted to do a poster for that I haven't really gotten the opportunity to. Thankfully, I mean, it's definitely been a good run so far. But yeah.
And one of the things that was, as I said to you before, was difficult was like going through your body of work, and how the hell do you get 10,000 posters into one collage, you know, because we try to use it, and it was so tough to pick from, you know, and you have done a very broad body of work, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of been all over the map.
And it's impressive. And I mean, I'm not a huge Pixies fan, but there's that one Pixies poster of yours that's just fantastic. You know, the sort of dog one.
Oh yeah, the boxer.
Yeah. The boxer, of course. Yeah. You know, that really is a great piece.
Thank you.
So, is there anything? You know, we are kind of running out of time. With, you know, at some point I'm going to get a 2-minute warning. Is there anything you want to ask me before we go, or say, or you want to sort of say that something's coming up that you want to take an opportunity to promote?
I don't really have much to promote other than, you know, anybody wants to follow my work, they can follow me at Mazza_art on Instagram. That's pretty much where I post the most. I have the group on Facebook called Mazza Poster Club. That's always a good place to get early access to drops and stuff like that. Sometimes I'll only release stuff to people in the group. It just depends. If I don't have a lot of something and I know there's people in that group that want it, that's kind of where most of the people that collect my work congregate, I guess.
Yeah, I saw someone asking when you're on your chat, are you going to do any more DFATE stuff? But we might have mentioned that ourselves. So we'll try and get some stuff for given to live. That's really awesome. We're down to a minute and a bit, and yes, and while I'm here, I know that a lot of artists, and you do have some side, not just gig work, you know, but I will plug you here and say that, you know, artists have lost a lot of work, especially if they're doing gigs. So if you've got people out there, you're not going to gigs at the moment because we can't, sadly, go to Jim's store and buy some stuff if you can. Yeah, I
mean, people have been very supportive, and it's really been great to see, you know, over this time. So I feel fortunate for sure.
Jim, we've got 40 seconds. So if there's anything else you want to throw in before Instagram cuts us out, please do.
I just want to say thank you to you for having me on. I think you're doing a great cause, and I'm going to be happy to help you out with some pieces and hopefully help you raise a little money.
Thank you. Really appreciate that. I know Todd Slater dropped in at some point. I don't know if he's still here. Todd, I'd love to have you on. I saw John from Big Nasty was here as well. I hope he's been here, but we'll see him tomorrow as well. So before we get cut out rudely, I'm going to say goodbye and thank you so much, Jim. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I don't know how an hour's gone so